Hey guys, welcome back to Normal GAYS, where we take on LGBT insanity. I'm Brad Polumbo, here with Clarkson Lawson and special guest Guy Benson of Fox News fame. Guy, welcome back to the channel.
Awesome to be here. Thanks, guys.
Well, okay, so in our last video, we talked about women with penises. This is much more somber, much more serious. We have to talk about some serious LGBT news. It's come out, Fox News, coincidentally enough, has reported that the man who attempted to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, remember this happened a while back, now identifies as a woman. And the Department of Justice is seeking a 30-year sentence for defendant Nicholas Rosk, who now goes by the name Sophie. So they're now, of course, adjusting all of the court documents to say Ms. And depending on the state where this is prosecuted, this person could be placed in a female prison. They do that in all the blue states. But I'm kind of curious for your thoughts, Guy, generally on this issue, because I think we have, at least in my experience, there is like a violent wing of the radical trans movement, very clearly, right? They've threatened me for being against kids' sex changes. We've seen them protest. But of course, you know, it's not all trans people, and most of them will never hurt a butterfly, right? So, like, how do we acknowledge the real issue here without demonizing, you know, millions of people?
Yeah, so it's a tricky one to talk through because, so here's one example that you've just given. The Kavanaugh would-be assassin, we find out, is trans. We find this out right after we know that we have consecutive Christian school shootings committed by trans-identifying people. We have the Charlie Kirk assassination committed by someone with a trans angle, at least to that story, who is perhaps partially motivated by that issue because of his boyfriend or partner or whatever they called themselves. And so there has been a fair amount of this, wildly disproportionate to the number of people or the percentage of people in the country who identify as trans. Like it's a huge spike in
recently
caused or trans-related violence, which is separate from violence against trans people, which is another thing that obviously we should all oppose when that happens. One of the things that I've kind of been thinking about is, because I know a few people who are trans and who are like pretty chill and normal about everything. They've got a sense of humor about it. They're not all like on hair trigger alert to be really mad about pronouns or whatever. A lot of them would actually agree with us on.
We have a lot of, you'd be surprised, we have a lot of trans people that watch this channel.
We do.
Yeah, because like, they know if they're normal otherwise and chill, we don't have an issue with them, but we are going to push back on the craziness.
So that's it. Like they would be, and in some cases like are with us on like, leave the kids alone, leave sports alone, and then otherwise leave adults alone to live their lives and like, let's accommodate as reasonably as possible. What I'm wondering is, and this is not a fully baked thought, so I know it's like a little bit risky to talk publicly about these things, but I think hopefully we're not currently in a crazy era where you can, you know, someone will jump down your throat or everyone will jump down your throat just for trying to make some sense of things and thinking out loud. But I wonder, is it possible that there is still a small, very, very small, but sort of consistent over time number of people who are either trans-identifying or secretly are, like that hasn't really changed very much over the course of human history. And some of those people exist for whatever reason. And I can't really relate to it personally, but I'm just trying to like, you know, give people space and breathing room and all that. But because being trans over the last number of years has been elevated to this perch where you kind of aren't allowed to talk or criticize that group. It's almost this exalted class of gender minority that a lot of people with very serious other issues have just sort of stampeded into that category because they feel like now they're kind of in some ways untouchable, or they have this political clout and people who are going to defend them to the hilt no matter what. And they kind of feel like maybe not impunity, but it's like a roundup of people with lots of other problems and issues who have just decided, okay, that's the place where I'm going to go. And I wonder how many of these violent people, if I'm right about that theory, fall into the category of like the Johnny come lately or, you know, Sally come lately, whatever they would identify as, to this community versus the people who are kind of, for lack of a better term, the normal trans community, and like the activists versus people just trying to live their lives. And that's at least part of the way I'm trying to think through some of this. I don't know if it's a perfect answer or how it affects policy or anything like that, but it's something that I thought about.
Identifying as trans gives you a form of social power over people. And I think that itself, because like you said, it gets put on a perch, attracts those types of people who desire to exert power over people. And then I think that there might be an intersection there with people who may have other comorbidities and might lean more towards violence. So I don't think you're wrong in that assessment. Like we all of the videos that we do responding to these crazy activists, I don't consider them actually trans because they don't seem to have dysphoria. Like there's people who are there's women fully feminine presenting saying I'm a man, or vice versa, or it can be flipped, or non-binary white liberal women who just need to have some sort of clout on the hierarchy.
My favorite is mask presenting non-binary lesbian.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, it's like straight with extra steps. So I think that you might be onto something with that there is an intersection there.
I'd be curious if we looked at these like violent radicals who, again, we're talking about a handful of people, but recently it seems disproportionate. How many of them are actually the kind of OG trans person who, as soon as 5 years old, felt something off? Or how many of them, when they were 20, discovered a Tumblr thread or a Reddit thread or started watching TikToks and got caught up in a social phenomenon? I would suspect it's far more the latter than the former.
Well, I mean, you even had one of the school shooters, the one in Minnesota, and I try to avoid using names because I don't think they deserve the notoriety, but this person had all these, horrible left-wing slogans written on the guns and all these diaries. It was very, very dark. But one of the things this person said, because I guess back to it was biological male the whole time, but he had put his family through this whole transition trans thing, and it seemed like it really impacted the family in a really tough way. And then towards the end, which ended in this explosion of violence and these dead children, is everything horrible. I guess the diary or the journal entries suggested that this person felt like, oh, I got brainwashed. I wish I had never done this. Right? I don't think that's someone who in kindergarten sort of deep down knew something was different that way. I think they were sort of conditioned into this somehow. And then at the end had a giant amount of regret, and it seemed like, again, there were a lot of other issues at play, and it ended in this horribly violent act. I think that society went way out on a limb very, very fast where questions were not allowed to be asked. And I think especially for young, impressionable people who are open to the power of suggestion and community and belonging and like, a protected class that I can join where a lot of my issues won't be questioned, I think we've done a grave disservice to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it was always bizarre that you weren't allowed, or it was considered so offensive to suggest any sort of social contagion element to gender dysphoria, when we literally know that when it comes to adolescence, every other thing that affects, any kind of mental condition, whether it's anorexia, whether it's anxiety, whether it's all these other things, there's always a social phenomenon to it. And it's well documented. But this one thing, you weren't allowed to suggest that because it's just people's truth. And it became, and I think the unfortunate thing, and Clarkson and I have talked about this a lot, but Guy, I imagine you feel similarly, is like, now the pendulum is swinging so far in the other extreme that I genuinely am seeing a lot of hate and animus and bigotry towards trans people just in general. I mean, I'm seeing Republicans say they all need to be institutionalized, strip them all of their Second Amendment rights, or other things that would have been unthinkable just a couple of years ago, partly because, I mean, when they literally like censored people on social media for misgendering like criminal rapists who identified as females. Like it went so far that the dam broke and now it's an absolute sewer. I imagine you've observed the same.
That, and I'm not going to defend any of the overreaction in the other direction, right? Because I don't think we should do that. Also, when you push people so far and you're canceling people and acting in this really destructive way, and then the pendulum swings, there's going to be a lot of pent up anger and frustration and like this human nature for vengeance, and I think that's not a good thing. One thing I will quickly say, though, about the Second Amendment trial balloon that we got, I think, a few weeks ago, that came up. I was on the air at Fox. I was co-hosting the Big Weekend Show with 3 other people and at least 2 of the other pundits were like very conservative. And this topic came up and I was sort of ready to go to bat, maybe by myself, be like, no, this is not how rights work. Like, you don't get to just declare an entire class of people mentally unstable or something and then strip a right from them. Like, that's not how the Constitution works. It's not how a free society should work. It's not how natural rights work, any of that. And as it turned out over the course of the segment, it was unanimous agreement on that point. I think that was overreach by whoever was suggesting that. So hopefully, if that trial balloon is not already shot down, it's shot down. That's not stripping an entire group of people of the Second Amendment too. Like, you can see how that could be abused against other groups in the future. Like, that's an easy one for me.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, to add, because what you were talking about before about, the way we've kind of put them on this perch and we affirm everything that's said. I don't know if you said it or if you said it, but I want to add on that even the medical industry is operating under this affirmation model. So not only can you not ask questions, socially, but medically, screening for comorbidities that could be causing it, it's non-existent. So it's not only that us as citizens have felt this pressure to acknowledge whoever and whomever wants to identify as whatever they want, but even our medical industry is corrupted at the highest level. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration stems from.
And at this point, we're pretty unique in the world in that sense. I'm a big believer in American exceptionalism for all sorts of good reasons. One of the unfortunate examples of American exceptionalism is how extreme the US is politically when it comes to medical science on these things. Like, the rest of the Western world, for the most part, has been running away from it. Like, being like, whoa, actually, here, we're all the public health people, and never mind, let's pump the brakes on this. There was a really big study in the UK, I think they call it an inquiry is how they like to say it, that kind of showed, no, like, the science is not there, especially involving children. And for now, I think we're finally course correcting in some important ways, but we're still an outlier. It's still a little wacky in the US.
Well, guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Check out Guy's channels as well, linked in the description. And we will be back with more Normal Gays content real soon.